That's great. We can all see that now.
We should be live, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So just before we start, I'll just go through just an announcement for people so that they understand where we are. So welcome to this meeting of Schools Forum. My name is Dave Irish and I am Chair of the Schools Forum. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Schools Forum Regulations 2020, which came into force on the 18th of June and made provisions to enable Schools Forum to meet remotely whilst they are unable to meet physically in a room during the outbreak of coronavirus. All members of the School Forum that have joined remotely are able to contribute, participate in any debate and vote on any matter being considered, unless they have an interest preventing them from doing so. This meeting is being broadcast live and recorded. So housekeeping matters, I would ask all members and officers to mute their microphones and only switch them on when invited to speak. If anyone wishes to speak or ask a question on a matter, please indicate by raising the hand icon on Microsoft Teams control panel or enter a question mark in the message box to the right of the screen. If you lose connection, you can rejoin the meeting by pressing the link again, and we'll now continue with with introductions. So I'm just going to get all the participants up and I'll go through as they are in my list, and if you can just introduce yourself, that would be great. So I'm going to start with Andrew Timmins.
Sorry, call me. Hi, it's Andy Timmins. I'm Group Head. I'm serving in this meeting.
Chris Ward.
Hi, Chris Ward, Director of Education, Skills and Employment at Sandwell Council.
Thank you, Chris. Connor Robinson.
Yes. Hello. My name's Connor Robinson. I'm a Democratic Services Officer at Sandwell Council, and I'm here supporting Shane.
Thank you. Julie Gill.
Hello, Julie Gill. I'm the Business Lead in SEN.
Thanks, Julie. Maura Talent.
Hi, I'm Maura Talent. I'm Group Head for Inclusive Learning Services at Sandwell Council.
Thank you. Rose.
Hello, I'm Rose Kerr, Principal Accountant for Children's Services.
Thanks, Rose. Shane.
Shane Parks, Democratic Services.
Thanks. Steve Lilly.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Lilly, Finance Business Partner at Sandwell Council.
Hi, Steve. Tricia Newton.
Tricia's broadcasting the meeting, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've introduced myself. The next one is Darren Barton. Darren, are you there? Okay, I'll come back to get Darren shortly. Gary Linford.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Linford. I'm Principal at St Mary's, Wednesbury.
Thanks, Gary. Jamie Barry. Sorry, Jamie, we seem to have a connection issue there. Jamie, we can't hear you at the moment, but we'll come back to you shortly. Jane Bailey.
Hello, it's Jane Bailey. I'm the Executive Director of Finance at Sandwell College. I'm on the call as the Post-16 rep.
Thanks, Jane. John Smallman.
Afternoon, all. John Smallman, Governor Oakham Primary School.
Thank you. Kevin Morgan.
Afternoon, everyone. Kevin Morgan, Executive Head, Sandwell Community School.
Okay. Elle Howard.
Hi, everybody. It's Lynn Howard. I'm Chair of Governors at Hampstead Junior and Ling Primary.
Hi, Lynn. Lucy Bray.
Good afternoon, everybody. Lucy Bray, Head Teacher at Mr Croft Academy in Wednesbury.
Mark Arnold.
Hello, head teacher Q3 Great Barr.
Neil Topless.
I'm Neil Topless, Vice Chairman of Schools Forum and the Special Schools Representative.
Thanks, Neil. Paul Sean.
Hi, Paul Schoen, head teacher, Holly Lodge.
S. Baker.
Hi, Sally Baker, head teacher at Cape Primary School.
Thank you. Wendy.
Hello, Wendy Lawrence, head teacher at Hanbury Primary School in West Brom.
Thanks, Wendy. I'm just looking down. I think that's everybody in attendance at the moment. The only person who we didn't manage to speak to was Darren Barton. So, Darren, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'll probably be joining the meeting just after 3 o'clock. Many thanks.
Okay. Right. According to my list, that's everybody who's here. Have I missed anyone out?
James.
James, sorry, James.
Yeah, that's fine. Hi, I'm James Topham. I'm head teacher at Wood Green Academy, and I'm going to have to leave shortly after 3.
Okay. Right. So item number 2, number 1 on the agenda is have we received any apologies, Shane? But by the sounds of it, most people are here.
No, we haven't received any apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Number 2 on the item, have we got any declarations of interest? I have a declaration of interest in item number 5, the pupil number growth funding, which is one of the things that my school is down for. So I will just make note of that. Okay, and item number 3 then, the minutes of the previous meeting. It was a fairly long meeting, and I'm not going to go through them I will go through them page by page, and if anybody has got any issues that they want to bring up on the appropriate page, they are numbered on the document on agenda item 3. So I'll just go through them, and if anyone has got any points, if they just raise their hand, hopefully it will show up on my screen. Page number 1. Gary Linford.
Dave, just on the membership, the Schools Forum distribution to members, does that need updating now? That list actually is an old list, I think.
Okay, I'll ask Shane to have a look at that. Can you make note of that, please, Shane?
Yes, I have made a note of that, Chair. Someone else did bring that up.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you had your hand up. Was that the same point?
Yeah, that was the same point, so hand down now.
Okay, thank you. Page number 2. Number 3. Thanks, Gary. Is your hand still up from the previous one?
Sorry, Chair, I'll lower it now.
Okay. Paul Shine on page number 3. You're on mute, Paul.
Point 5420, page 2. Still have no reply.
Hiya, Paul. In terms of, as I've said in the last meeting, the local authority response has been submitted to the DFE. So, I'm not sure why you haven't had any response from them. I can try and do a chaser on your behalf.
If you could, Rose, that would be great. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, page number 3. Number 4. Page number 5. Page number 6. Page number 7.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, Chair. Just going back to page number 7. It's a typo on the 4th bullet point down. The model for 2021/2/22 reflects the roll-in of the TPG.
So that should read 21/22.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, page number 8. Page number 9, which is votes 10. Page number 11. And finally, page number 12. Okay, thank you, everyone. So we'll take those as an accurate representation of the meeting. So moving on to item number 4, which is the dedicated schools grant allocations and draft school budgets 2021-22. And this report is for information, and the recommendation is for us to note the contents of the report. So Rose, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of this report, it's just to make members aware of the allocations that were announced just before we broke up for the Christmas break. So in total, before any adjustments, the dedicated schools grant allocation was 380,409,000, and you can see the breakdown under section 4.1, the table under section 4.1, with the schools block, central schools, services block, high needs, and the early years block. There are adjustments of 2,072,000, which is in relation to the high needs block for places funded or recouped in relation to academies. And then, so the allocation after adjustments is in that 4th column there, which totals 378,337,000. Under section 4.2, you can see a comparison of the funding and the pupil numbers between for 2020-21 and 2021-22. So you can see that in terms of the schools block allocation, there's an increase in funding and an increase in pupil numbers of 842 pupil increase. The central school services block has increased by 229,000, and I'm aware that, you know, some schools were asking why is the central schools funding increasing, but that is based on the funding is based on mainly the pupil numbers, plus there's also that historical element which will cease over a 5-year period. With the high needs block, you can see the increase in funding there to 53.666 million, and the increase in the pupil numbers for special schools. And you can also see there's an increase in the early years block. But if you note, there are some decreases in terms of actual early years numbers, the exception being the additional 15 hours for parents who are eligible for that funding. There's a slight increase in the early years pupil premium grant to 262,000, and then a slight increase again in the Disability Access Fund. For noting as well is that the DFE are responsible for agreeing the purchase of a single national license, which is usually summarized as the copyright licenses, but as you can see, it covers all of those licenses under section 4.3 in terms of those bullet points. Now, this arrangement, it covers for academies as well as maintained schools, and the ESFA, they deduct the charge from our DSG allocation at source. the charge for Sandwell for 2021-22 is 269,000. The early years block is indicative at this stage and is based on the school's early years and alternative provision censuses dated from January 2020. And the DfE have informed us that the basis for updating these allocations will be reviewed in spring 2021. In relation to the high needs block, the allocations are provisional figures and will be updated initially in March of this year. The import and export adjustment will be updated in June of this year with the January 2021 school census and the individual learning record data. The DfE will make further adjustments in April 21 to reflect some of the place funding deductions in relation to 2021-22 as a result of the place change notifications. With regards to the school's budget for 2021-22, as noted in section 4.1, the school's block allocation is 297,545,000. But what's been distributed through the main funding formula is 296,454,000, and that's after adjusting for the pupil number growth contingency, which has been agreed by the schools forum. Now, the school's funding model has been submitted to the DfE to meet their deadline, which is the 21st of January. I was hoping to have heard from the DfE to say that they'd approve the model, but I've received no information as yet. But as you know, as stated there, the actual deadline was the 21st of January, and I submitted on the 7th of January. So, and I have chased them as well for an approval, but I'm still awaiting. With regards to the proposed formula, the information that can release at this stage is just in relation to that the primary secondary ratio of 1 to 1.27 has been agreed now at Cabinet at its meeting on the 13th of January. And then in terms of the deprivation funding, the prior attainment and EAL lump sum, split site and rates, you can see the actual rates which have been agreed, but we are still awaiting confirmation with regards to the basic entitlement rate, ORPU, and the minimum funding guarantee and the minimum funding guarantee ceiling. So as soon as we've got that information, that will be released to schools. But at this time, Chair, this is the information that we're asking for members to note.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Rose, is there any indication of when the MFG and the MFG ceiling and the ORPU rate will be released?
Well, this is where we're waiting for confirmation from the DfE. So we've submitted the model, and they just have to make sure that all of the things that have been included meet with the school regulations as agreed at the moment. So I have chased, like I said, and we're just waiting for confirmation now.
Okay. So this is for us to know. Are there any questions, comments from anyone at this point? Gary Linford?
Yes, going back to section 4.5 around the early years block allocation. Rose, I think there's a lot of concern in primary schools at the moment regarding numbers of nursery children who are going to be in school this coming Thursday on Census Day.
Yeah.
I know, and I include myself in this number, I've been keen to try to keep numbers to a minimum, although the government is encouraging us to open our nurseries for all children. I have an average of 10 children in every bubble, in every year group in school at the moment. If we were to open nursery for all of our nursery children, we would have a number double average size bubble in our nursery, and obviously that is a major concern for us at the moment. Obviously, I work it as part of a MAC that goes across 2 boroughs now, and I understand from my partner schools that their local authority has already given assurance that early years funding isn't going to be affected negatively because of low numbers on Thursday.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that Sandwell could give us a steer before Thursday on this too, please?
Well, I'm just trying to call up. I know that Sarah Baber has issued, I believe, I don't know if it's gone through the head teacher's letter. Chris, you might be able to confirm in a little while, but I'm aware that Sarah Baber, who's the early years lead, has issued some information in terms of the basis on which schools are supposed to count. So they don't have to physically be in the school, as far as I'm aware. It's just about whether, in terms of have the parents signed the agreements for them to be in schools, and so that they should be counted. That is my understanding at the moment. But Chris, I don't know if you've got any, if that's been released.
I think Gary's question is extremely relevant, because there is a suggestion that if any school is limiting the number of children going into nursery, then those places might not be counted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think this is the point that our nurseries are at. Now, at the moment, I'm not getting any feeds that our nurseries are going to go into that limiting mode, and will all still count their children on roll, even if they're not in school. Yeah. Now, if we're getting to a point where we think that that's not happening, then we'll have a discussion with the DfE on behalf of schools. I mean, certainly the DfE wouldn't want to underfund nurseries, particularly those that are not schools, in the next coming year, because those parents haven't arrived. And I think there'd be a national outcry if there was underfunding or nurseries went to the wall as a result of this view. So I understand that some local authorities are saying, don't worry, it'll sort itself out, because the DfE will continue to pay for places going forward. And we can expect to see some sort of change in that policy. For our schools, we're seeing them right at their limit, like you were talking about, Gary, in terms of how many you can have in a nursery. I mean, I think because the census is coming up very soon, let's get past census day and then let's have a look at numbers. I think in that case, if you're in that situation and they're getting too high, what I would like to say is that I think schools are in a stronger position than individual independent settings because of the way in which schools can operate and count people on their rolls. It's the settings we're highly concerned about with this policy at the moment, but it's certainly something we're keeping an eye on, Gary, and certainly something we've been flagging to the DfE for the last 2 weeks.
Chris, so your advice to schools would be for us to include all of the children on Thursday who would be there?
Include all the children who are on your roll for that day. Yes. As
if they were there, even if they're not.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Chris, on the basis that we've got a limited number of primary college here, is that something that is going out, a piece of information that is going out to everyone? Because it's clearly a question that's been raised here. Therefore, my concern is that not everybody would do it, and we get an inconsistent picture.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's clear that anyone who's on roll should be included in the census. I'll pop that on the letter so it's clear.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or questions on the basis of agenda item 4? No. Okay. So we have. We're on to agenda item number 5, which is the pupil number growth funding. And this report is for decision. And the recommendations are that the school forum members consider the schools meeting the criteria for pupil number growth funding and the additional needs funding, and approve the total funding for each school as set out in the report. 1.2, that the total proposed pupil number growth funding for the schools listed in sections 4.5 to 4.13 is £332,155. And 1.3, that the total proposed pupil number growth additional needs funding for schools listed in section 4.14 is £123,027. So is this Chris or is it Rose?
It's me again.
Okay.
Okay. So in terms of just to make everyone aware that in terms of the pupil number growth funding for 2020-21, it's set at 2.269. That was what was agreed through Schools Forum and Cabinet. And but there's also we've had a positive recruitment adjustment of 551,000. So the total funding available for pupil number growth is 2.8 million. In terms of expenditure as at the 31st of December. Oh, I've put 2019, it should be 2020. Was 1.787 million, which gives a current underspend of just over £1 million, £1,033,000. With regards to the pupil number growth additional needs, that was the funds carried forward. There's a balance of £234,501 with no spend to date as at 31st of December. In terms of these schools which are presented here, it's in relation to mid-year admissions, where the school has had a minimum net increase of 30 pupils over the previous October census. And this is where the local authority we will automatically calculate the funding for schools who meet the criteria. And so that there's no longer a requirement for schools to submit applications as they have in the past. These pupil number increases have been confirmed via the October 2019 and October 2020 census. So I'll just go through very briefly each of the schools. So Sacred Heart, they had a total pupil increase of 39, but they've funded already for 30 pupils through the what's been agreed with the local authority. And so that it's just the net of that which we're asking for funding. So 9 pupils at £8,348. The Phoenix Collegiate had an increase of 31 pupils, but already funded for 6. And so asking for funding of £33,060 for 25 pupils. Summerhill, they've had an increase of 44 pupils, and so we're asking for funding of £40,810. Ormston Ford, they had increase in pupils of 50, but they're already funded for 15 through the local authority agreed process. So entitled to 46,285 pupils, £46,285 for 35 pupils. Wodensborough Ormston Academy, the change or the increase in pupils is 85, but they're already funded for 20. So we're asking for 85,957 based on 65 pupils. Shiland Collegiate Academy, the increase in pupils is 78, but they're already funded for 25. So we're asking for funding of £70,088 for 53 pupils. The RSA Academy, they're funded, or the increase is 76 pupils. They already received funding for 60. And so we're asking for 21,159 based on 16 pupils. And then finally, under the pupil number growth is Ormston Samuel Community Academy, where they've had an increase of 50 pupils. They're already funded for 30 pupils. So we're asking for £26,448 pounds based on 20 pupils. Now, with the pupil number growth additional needs funding, this is where we look at in relation to those schools in terms of the increases for either EDACI funding or EAL funding. And you can see the schools listed below, and and the amounts. So the total funding there is £123,027 that we're asking for those schools: Wood Green Junior, Lightwoods, Sacred Heart, Ormston Ford, Shireland, RSA Academy and Wodensborough Academy. So, Chair, we're asking for agreement for those amounts to be paid.
Okay, so bearing in mind I have already issued that I've got a conflict of interest in this one. I'm assuming this is a vote that people are requested to do. So, and is it all members of the school forum?
Yes.
Vote? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, if you are, we'll ask all of those in favour, all of those against, and those who are abstaining. If you can raise your hands, then we'll count them and record them appropriately. So, all of those in favour of the schools. So that's 13 in favour, I make it.
Yes, that's right, Chair.
Okay. Okay, if we could just take our hands down, that's great, thank you. All of those against? And
Darren hasn't taken his hands down, I don't think.
Darren, are you able to take? Thank you. All of those against? And any abstaining? That's me because of my conflict of interest. One abstention. Okay, so thank you for that. Okay, are there any comments in relation to this? I know we've just voted on it, but are there any comments or questions? I'm assuming not. Okay, so moving on to agenda item number 6, which was released today, which was tabled and sent out today, which is the SEN high needs block monitoring. Find my copy of it now. Okay, which is so. This report is for us to note the contents of the report in relation to the 2020-21 high needs block grant budget monitoring for the period 1st of April to 31st of December 2020, and to note the data provided on the commission places and occupancy for special provisions as at 31st of December 2020.
Thanks, Chair, that's me. First of all, apologies for it being so late coming out to you. That was an error on my part. I will own up to that one. The high needs block grant for 2021 is still 48.583 million. I don't know that we've had any adjustments to that as yet, but if we do have an adjustment, Rosie's shaking her head. So if we do have any adjustments between now and the end of March, I will let you know. The anticipated surplus that are reported on the 31st of October at the last forum meeting was a surplus of 1.37 million. Since looking at the figures and updating all the post-16 figures, that anticipated in-year deficit has now gone into a deficit of 0.193 million. Nothing has changed on the figures that are reported at the last one. Table 1 shows the variances to budget that was reported last time. Very little has changed. The main change that you need to be aware of is the post-16 further education colleges and specialist providers. At the time I did the report in October, we hadn't actually agreed all of the contracts. All of the contracts now have come in and been agreed with the exception of 3, which we're still working on. And that has thrown up a 3.77 overspend on post-16. Obviously at the moment we're still working on the figures for the contracts, and I will report back anything that changes on that at a future report. Previously at the last forum, any deficit in this year will have first call on the budget for next year, along with the 0.56 million deficit carried forward. Now, that's the budget. The SEN place element for focus provisions hasn't moved much at all. We're still waiting for the 9 consultants to be agreed and for children to go into schools. So we're still looking at roughly 16% vacancy rate there. Commission places in special schools are our commission places at the moment. Again, I need to point out that the commission places are different to PAN. The commission places are the places that we've commissioned in here, not the number of places that the schools are able to take. The Orchard Meadows are up to full capacity space-wise. Westminster has still got space, physical space for children, but they've gone over numbers. And Shenston and Braid's Lodge, again, the issue there is physical space. The crews are showing vacancies across all the 3 crews. This is the information that's been picked up from our Synergy database, and there's nothing on there that I can see that looks particularly odd. The year 7s have all been recorded, so I can only assume that at the moment they are under numbers because of the issues with lockdown, COVID, and other issues with children not going into alternative provisions. So that's the end of the report.
Okay, thank you, Julie. I see Neil has got a question. Neil, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just want to, obviously we've received this really late in the day, so it's been difficult to really get my head around the figures and the implications of those. But I mean, you have already mentioned that we're going to be running on a deficit this financial year. I'm just wondering if there's an expectation that you're going to be revisiting the vacancies that haven't been pointed to, which add up to quite a considerable sum with regards to helping to support paying off this deficit.
Sorry, Neil, you were breaking quite a lot there. Are you talking about the staffing vacancies?
Yeah. So with regards to the staffing vacancies, is there a view that you'll be perhaps reviewing those and consulting on the staffing vacancies again? Because if you don't appoint to those vacancies, then in theory, you would argue that the deficit won't be quite as dramatic as it is.
Now, the vacancies have already been taken account of in the deficit in year. We've appointed to the majority of the vacancies now. We've still got 1 or 2 outstanding that won't be appointed till next financial year. The main one that's outstanding is the Preventing Secondary Exclusions team, which is still under discussion at the moment. Those haven't been appointed to, and as far as I know, unless Moira can tell me anything differently, there's nothing in the pipeline to appoint to those at the moment. So that's something that will be discussed when I bring one of the next reports, which will be the 21-22 budget figures.
Okay.
Moira, did you want to add to that, or was it something separate?
It was just to clarify in terms of exactly what Julie said, in terms of we'll be reviewing the secondary exclusions team on whether we go forward with that with the secondary heads. For other vacancies like EP vacancies, we look to fill still.
Okay.
So will the decisions around that be a consultation, Moira, or will that something that the LA will be managing internally?
We'll be consulting with the secondary heads around whether they still want that, whether they want that team or not.
Okay. Thank you, Neil. Any other questions or points on that report? Okay, so that report was for us to note the various points. So we'll note those and I'll record that as being noted. Item number 7 is any other business, and Shane, I don't believe we had any others, any other business submitted. Is there anything else?
No, there was nothing submitted, Chair.
Okay. And I can see no hands raised at the moment, so I'm assuming there is no other business. Which just brings us to the date of the next meeting, which is the 8th of March 2021, and again that will be a virtual meeting, and the papers will be issued in due course. So that all that leaves me to do is to say thank you to everybody for attending, and I hope you all stay safe and keep well throughout this lockdown period. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.